On October 25th, 1944, Commander Ernest Evans, the men of the USS Johnston, sprung into action upon discovering the Japanese fleet and fought the Battle off of Samar. It was part of the Task Force 77, or known as thie. This is consisting of 6 escort carriers, 3 destroyers, 4 destroyer escorts. Their mission was anti-submarine patrols and air support cover for the ground invasion of the 6th Army on Leyte Gulf as they were landing. The escort carriers had smaller aircrafts like the Wildcats. What they weren't expecting was a whole Japanese fleet under Admiral Carrero, which consisted of 4 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers. At 6:15 a.m. around there, radar picked up the Japanese fleet heading towards the Leyte Gulf. Standing in their way was the group of Task Force 3, or thie. Commander Evans ordered his ship to charge toward the Japanese fleet, and he led the charge of the other destroyers and the destroyer escorts that charged into battle immediately without waiting on Admiral Sprague's orders or confirmations. With the Johnston, they fired torpedoes and smoke screen as well simultaneously, and their cannons hitting the Suzuki Kimono, knocking both of those ships out. The USS Johnston and Commander Evans, they continued to fighting, giving them all they got. Commander Evans, he ordered to continue fighting, even losing power. Now, at the end of the battle, the Nagasaki crew and their commander and rendered a salute to the crew of the USS Johnston and to the ship. At around 10:15 a.m., the USS Johnston would be finally sunk. That 144 of the crew would make it out and be rescued later on. In the battle, we lost 2 escort carriers. We lost 2 destroyers and 1 destroyer escort that were sunk. We lost over 1,000 men on the American side, and on the Japanese side, we were so heavily damaged, Admiral Carrero ordered a retreat, which gave the Americans a decisive victory despite the heavy losses. Commander Ernest Evans, he would receive posthumously the Medal of Honor. The USS Johnston would receive the Presidential Unit Citation. And in 2019, somewhere around 80 years after the battle, some researchers would discover the remains of the ship, the USS Johnston. Upon discovery, it was the deepest feat or whatever, a death in the ocean of a sunk ship in naval history. However, it would take 2 years, 2021, for them to properly identify the ship. However, they did make note that when they discovered the ship, it was still in a fighting position. The guns were still in a fighting position. And then later on, the USS Samuel Roberts in 2022 was also discovered, but at a deeper depth, which perished in the same battle off Samar, part of the Leyte Gulf campaign. This is Sean, the true historian, and this is what I wanted to talk about with Ernest Evans. Thank you guys for this.